USC Trojan family, what is up? Welcome to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud. Thank you for always making this your go-to listen for USC. Historic day yesterday. USC, as it stands right now, with the number one recruiting class in 2026. The first time that an SEC team has not had this esteemed position in 18 years, and the first time that USC has been number one since 2006. So quite some time. There could be some movement if Chris Henry Jr. ends up committing to Oregon, which he is now predicted to do so. We'll see what that ends up shaking out, but that could maybe shift this. But either way, an absolute historic class for USC, a historic day yesterday. Three things I want to talk about with you guys. One, quick little Mark Bowman update. I'm sure all of you have heard now, but just kind of what that snag was, just to put a bow on that. It's done. He's a Trojan. It's great, but we'll put a little bow on that. Two, got to give some flowers to some USC coaches who have, because of this cycle, positioned themselves for some accolades as some of the top recruiters in the nation. And three, seeing way too much conversation on social about like downgrading this USC class because of the number of commits. Too many people downplaying that bringing on 35 freshmen is silly, and then too many people just not understanding how metrics and rankings work in terms of different recruiting websites scoring synchronizations and how they elevate teams. So get all that, have some fun, and then get you guys out of here. But first off, with Mark Bowman, so I got to go. I was invited to a special event last night with most of, if not all, I'm trying to think who I didn't see, but most of the California recruits. It was just an event to celebrate all these California kids staying home, having the number one recruiting class at USC. There was a panel of a lot of really esteemed, successful people that kind of spoke to this class about, how to be successful, like how to deal with certain things and whatnot. So it was really cool to see a lot of these recruits there, meet some of the parents. So I was very blessed and privileged to be able to be invited to that. And Mark Bowman was there, showed up along with his, teammates, Caden Dixon-Wyatt, saw Sean Scott. I could go down the list. Trent Mosley, obviously not his teammate, but now his teammate. Trent Mosley was there. Brandon Lockhart, of course, was there. Let me just say, too, Brandon Lockhart is a tall, big corner. I mean, he is built to play now, just size-wise. We'll see what the development looks like, but he has the size going in as a true freshman to play cornerback for USC, which is great to see in terms of just the body type. So really cool event, but Mark Bowman was there. It's, we talked about this before yesterday, but there was kind of two reasons, I guess, why this was delayed. He has come out and said that, just going over the paperwork, his mom wanted to make sure everything was real buttoned up, double checking. There's been kind of reports or rumors that LSU made a late push. It actually was not Oregon. It was Lane Kiffin, who they had already recruited Bowman when he was at Ole Miss, so reached out kind of last minute, maybe threw a big offer at him, which made them, and I've heard from others that, hey, maybe there was some NIL conversation of like, hey, they're offering this, can we get this bumped up, whatever. We'll never know fully what happened. Basically, though, it was just, hey, let's just get the contract dialed up, buttoned up. There was never any fear of him actually flipping. I think it was more of just like, okay, we don't need to, haste into this. Just make sure everything's all dialed in on the contract, on the letter of intent, and everything's just, exactly where both sides want it to be. So everyone freaked out. The crash out was wild. Rightfully so. He's the crown jewel of the class overall when you just look at ranking and what he's going to be in this offense. So I get that. But all is well. He is a Trojan. We don't even have to think about it anymore. Letter is signed. He's happy, thrilled to be a Trojan. He said it was never any doubt that he was going to be a Trojan. It was just, some logistics behind the scenes that had everyone kind of worried. But so that's done. We said it yesterday, but hey, 34 commitments coming into this signing day. All 34 sign. Really no drama. The drama with Bowman was more on the outside than it was actually internally. And then you flip the elite Caden Dixon-Wyatt as well to add to your number one not just recruiting class, but number one wide receiver room in this class for sure. So just an incredible day in that regard. Let's get to some coaches here. Coach Henne, 247 recruiting rankings. Right now, he is third in the country as the, in the top 25 or whatever they do, 24 coaching recruiters. And he's obviously responsible for much in this class. Good on the list: Luke Wafel, Jamin Winfield, Tom, Timote Katuanga, Braden Jones, Andrew Williams, Jake Johnson, had a hand in Malik Brooks. Henne is, I know him fairly well, awesome human being, phenomenal football coach, phenomenal motivator, and a phenomenal recruiter. And I think what makes him such a good recruiter, there's a number of things, and he would probably tell you the same thing, and he's been on our show before when he first got hired on by USC, is, his background. Everyone will point to, well, yeah, he coached Aaron Donald, but who else? Anyone that knows how he's developed guys with the Rams that weren't named Aaron Donald. He had his hand in a lot of other really, really good players that obviously did not reach the Aaron Donald heights, but had really good careers and were able to complement Aaron Donald really well. So he has a great history and resume that resonates with some of these young athletes. Two is the most important, and it's his relationship building. And how much, and you can say this for all these coaches, how much he truly cares about these kids. He started off coaching after playing in the NFL for the Cincinnati Bengals at Georgia Military College. And there's a story that he told us while on the show that, this was like pre-NIL with all this different money. And so, this was a small college. It wasn't one of these big universities. And so he himself would make sure kids were taken care of on these road trips, providing food, all this, out of his own pocket, just making sure that his team was taken care of and nourished and ready to go. And that's just a very small, minute example of just, how much he truly cares about his players on the field, but more importantly, off the field, and being that kind of father figure in developing these guys as young men. That resonates in recruiting, especially when talking to parents, right? When you're sending your kid off, especially if you're sending him far away, like you are Luke Wafel going across the country, or Jamin Winfield going from Texas to LA, like you want to know that your son is getting taken care of, not just financially, taken care of in a role model that's going to improve them off the field as much as it's going to improve them on the field. So Henne is one of one. We're going to see a lot more of this development start paying off. I know there was some uneasiness, I guess, with the defensive line this year. I guess it just didn't quite live up to expectations. I've talked about it ad nauseum about, the lack of experience and maybe the portal entry guys didn't quite live up to what the expectations were. I don't think this is an indictment on Coach Henne and his ability to coach and develop. I really don't. I think he's one of the best in the business. Anyone would tell you that. So, number 3 in rankings. Number 8, new addition, Coach Chad Savage. Machine. We knew when this hire happened last December, when they were able to get him from Colorado State University, that they were getting not just a good coach who they made their tight end and inside receiver coach, but a phenomenal recruiter. Had a footprint already in Southern California. That was his region kind of with Southern California, with Colorado State, So already had a relationship with a lot of high school coaches out here, had built a relationship with a lot of players already, and now he's at a program where it's like, oh, well, you already know me, but now I'm coaching at USC. Let's get this done. So he's responsible for Mark Bowman, for Caden Dixon-Wyatt, for Trent Mosley, for Luke Weaver, some just elite talent that he was responsible for getting into USC, and another just phenomenal coach. We've seen the development of that tight end room with Walker Lyons and Lake McCree this year, how much more involved they were. Mekhi Lemon, obviously from the inside, Mekhi Lemon was going to be great anyway. But let's not take away that he is in Chad Savage's room. They work hand in hand together. We saw his craft go from really good to great. And I think, you got to credit Coach Savage for some of that. So number 8 in recruiting rankings. Number 9, no surprise, Coach Zach Hansen. We know already how great he is as a developer, right? First year as USC's O-line coach, all the sweeping changes. You lose a starter and Pratt out of the portal. You go get DJ Wingfield to replace him. Oh, guess what? Ineligible, thanks to some ridiculous NCAA and California rule. You shuffle again. You have injuries all year long, and they were one of the much better units in the Big Ten, certainly one of the most improved units in the Big Ten, and now going into a full offseason with these guys coming back, with these new recruiting guys that we all know who he was able to get, Kenai Pepe, Brett Koleje, Cannon Smith, go down the list, Eason Tafa, elite. Zach Hansen is an elite offensive line coach and recruiter. USC's lucky to have him. And then finally in the top rankings, number 12, Doug Belk. And I've always spoken very highly of Doug Belk. Again, I know the secondary was kind of up and down. I've talked a lot about, hey, let's look at the experience these guys had. Let's look at the, guys getting thrown in and out because of injury. Like, there was just a lot of nuances that went on with this season. It was not a knock on coaching and development. Like, there were some coaching mistakes, I'm sure, schematically, whatever. That's a full deep dive you could go, but I don't think this is a lack of being able to develop players between Belk and Trevon Reed. Like, these are two very capable coaches. And he finishes, top 12 in recruiting. Obviously, we know Elbert Hill. We know R.J. Sermons, who reclassified. Brandon Lockhart. Peyton Dyer, a big one from Georgia, who I think is an underrated kid. Joshua Holland, Madden Riordan. Jaden Crowder, the late flip from Santa Margarita they were get. He was committed to Cal. So go on the list. Secondary's in good hands with Doug Belk. So some flowers there. Obviously, we talked a lot yesterday about Chad Bowden, rightfully so. Deserves a ton of flowers, but let's not forget these coaches that are in the trenches too, out on the recruiting trail, often on the phones every single day, building relationships with these kids, keeping them engaged and keeping them committed to USC football. So great day for them. All right. Seen a ton of chatter. Should we address it? Should we not? I don't know, but why not? Let's get into it a little bit. And there's all this, back and forth of, 30. Okay, let's start with this. So first of all, there's people out there like, when you take 35 commits and you look at the average, like, they're actually not the number one class, right? The average is below. Yes, that is how averages work. The more you have, typically the average will be a little lower. That is very basic math. That is what the mean is. However, when you look at recruiting rankings, and I'm looking specifically at Rivals, 247 has a formula as well, they don't necessarily do their rankings based on the entire class. They choose a number, essentially, and compare based on that number of recruits. It says directly on the top line of their industry ranking football team rankings, average number of commits used in ranking score 19. So they take the top 19 and average those, which puts USC first, meaning USC's top 19 players are better than any other program's top 19 players. So, for anyone trying to make some argument or confused or think that they're number one just because of volume, the ranking literally is not based on the entire amount of the class. And that is not throwing any shade at the other recruits under that 19 level, but that's just how the rankings are based. So there's no leg to stand on using that argument. It's just categorically false. USC's class ranking is based on their top 19 recruits, which are better than every other program's top 19. Now, I said at the top of the show, depending where Chris Henry ends up, if he does end up at Oregon, that could supplant them up in that regard. So, but USC, 22 blue chip players, all the 3 stars we love. We know that there's going to be some great development there. I mean, just go down the list. Eric Gentry was a 3-star player. Jaden Mayava was a 3-star player. King Miller was a no-star player. Walk-on. You have to have 5 stars. When you're in an elite program, you got to get blue chip players. Have to. But that doesn't mean that you would just ignore the 3 stars. Like, there's some diamonds in the rough out there. And I guarantee you, as I've said before, all these coaches, not just USC, they're not looking at Rivals or 24/7 when they're doing their evaluations. Maybe they use it in some regard, but they're making their own evaluations. Like, they may not believe that Roderick Tizino's a 3-star player. They may not believe Braden Jones should have fallen to 3-star because based on their evaluation, they have him much higher on the board. But just getting that out of the way, it's based on their top 19. So their 19 are better than everyone else. Their 19 blue chippers are better than everyone else. All right. So that's that. Secondly, I see a lot of people like, man, what do you like 35 recruits? What kind of roster building is that? What kind of roster building is that? It's just everyone's going to transfer out. Yada, 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 yada. So 2 points on that. One, we know that once Chad Bowden and his staff was hired, there was going to be a little bit of a tweak in the roster construction and roster management. It had already began before he got here, right? Like Lincoln Riley has said, one of his biggest mistakes was relying too heavily on the portal. So they had already shifted that back in 24 to being more focused on recruiting and high school kids. And Chad has said, I think one of his, was it his quote? I think it was his quote, like, oh man, I can't remember the quote off the top of my head, but basically we're going to emphasize high school recruiting and use the portal to supplement is basically what the quote is. And so we knew there was going to be a little shift. We knew that this was going to be a big class because of kind of implementing the roster they wanted, which means, there's going to be some turnover from previous. But now when you have this larger class, and next year's obviously will be much smaller, you develop within, you create this iron sharpen iron mentality of like, hey, there's only so many spots that can play. And if you're going to lose guys to the portal, I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. But at least the guys that are moving up have been within your program. You're not having to go to the portal every year to bring in new guys because no matter what, guys are going to hit the portal. Whether you have a 20-person class or a 35-person class. No matter what, you're going to have 10 to 15 to 20. All the big programs do. So whenever USC has a high number, go look at Georgia, Texas, Florida, Ohio State. They all are in that 20 to 30 range of guys leaving in the portal. It's just the way the college football is nowadays. So if you're going to lose anyway, you want to have that higher base class that if guys do leave, at least everyone moving up has been in your program longer. It's simple math, simple roster construction, simple numbers. Georgia is probably the staple right now. Georgia, Ohio State are really the two kind of standards when it comes to college football, right? Ohio State won last year. Georgia won, 3 years ago? And they've won multiple times over the past 5 to 10 years. You look at Georgia's recruiting, right? This year, 2026, 31 commits. Last year, 28. 2024, 29. 2022, 30. This isn't some novel concept of taking this many. I mean, Georgia does it every year, and USC is not going to do it every year. Like we've said all along, next year is going to be in that 15 to 20 range, much smaller class. But this 35-person 2026 class is the baseline. Now, there's a lot of Oregon fans. Obviously, this is a rivalry, guys. I don't care what anyone says. The chirping back and forth, it's great. Yeah, look at we just have a better roster, this and that. Well, yeah, you also inherited a really good, Mario Cristobal was a great recruiter. You can say what you want as an in-game coach, but he is one of the best recruiters in college football. And Oregon was not in a bad place when he left for Miami. Not taking anything away from Dan Lanning, but he inherited a program that had a really deep roster already. Again, this maybe didn't happen as fast as it should have at USC, but now we're seeing that type of roster construction that happened for Oregon 10 years ago, or whenever Cristobal started there. So, whatever. People are going to talk. It is what it is. I'm just saying to all you Trojan fans, that's the formula, is building this base at 35. Yeah, you're going to lose guys at the portal, but everyone moving up is program guys. You don't have to go and get 10 must-have starters. This year, they're going to get some of that in the portal because of this new philosophy. They're going to have to go to the portal and get kind of, some really key acquisition guys. Next year and moving forward, that won't have to be the case. You only need to add maybe, hey, we need one corner, one D end, and we need one receiver that can start today. All the rest are depth pieces. That's how you build sustainability within a football program. So there you go. There you have it. Thank you all for hanging out. I'll be back later today. We're doing 2-3 videos every day. That's what we do here. USC LAFB, trying to crank this stuff out. As I've mentioned, going to start doing some basketball coverage now that we're really getting into basketball season. Big Ten play for both men and women's. So be on the lookout for that. Bear with me. It's going to be a growing process, really covering basketball for the first time. So we'll see how it goes. But should be fun. Got some news today that Arenas, high-end 5-star player that was obviously hurt. Timeline's looking pretty good, like potential being back in January. I mean, how big would that be for this 8-0 basketball team? Get on the bus. He's building something great. We know the women's team is already fantastic. I mean, they won by 40 against St. Mary's just like 2 nights ago. USC beat Oregon. The men's team beat Oregon just like 2 nights ago. So vibes are high right now at USC. You got the number 1 recruiting class. Things are going absolutely in the right direction, and both basketball programs are trending out, plus all the other USC sports. I mean, Jen Cohen, best AD in the country, the way this athletic department is rolling right now. Exciting times to be a Trojan fan. So exciting times for us here at USC LAFB, and it's because of all you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for everyone that hung out last night on the call-in show. I know I just dropped in for a little bit, but Tim and Madman killed it as always. A lot of great calls from you guys. If you have not already, please hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us out. Become a member. Get some member perks, some merchandise discounts, free membership over at our forum at LAFBnetwork.com, which you should check out anyway. And appreciate you all. Thank you, family, as always. Fight on. Hey, Trojan family, thank you so much for hanging out and watching the USC LAFB show. Before you go, let me tell you quickly about our friends over at Sleeper. Go right now, download the Sleeper app. It's the number 1 sports app, not just for season-long fantasy, but they've got live pickers, they've got live stat updates, they've got a chat that you can chat with other users, plus the daily pick'em, which is a blast, or daily fantasy, whatever you want to call it. You go and pick 2 to 8 players across any sports. If you're talking USC, go choose J.D. Mayava in his next matchup. Pick more or less passing yards, more or less touchdowns. You stack those, and you can win real money. When you go to make your first deposit, make sure you use our promo code USC LAFB. You're going to get a match deposit up to $100. Put in $100, you get $100 free to play with from Sleeper. Put in $10, they'll match you that $10. So now you're sitting at $20 to play with. But also right now, for any new users, no deposit required. You get $20 free entry. You can stack both. You can get the $20 for free. Go make a deposit. Use USC LAFB. And now you've got a bunch of free money to play with right there on the Sleeper app. Check it out, Trojan family. And when you do, tell them the guys at the USC LAFB sent you.